They said there was a treasure on the island, its location known only by the dead. I could see it in my dreams. How was I supposed to know that in order to find it, I'd have to die too?
Spirits and specters from regions unknown, guide to me the wanderer who searches alone. Well, welcome back, Murphy McCallan. Have you found all 5 ingredients for the spell?
I found 3 so far. Only 2 are left, the chalk and the coffin nails.
Hurry. The island will lead you to that which you seek. I have no doubt about that.
How will the spell help me find the lost treasure of Belmore Manor?
There are things on this island that have gone unseen. Stories that have been left unheard. At least to mortals. I commune with regions beyond. Let me introduce you to a friend. Out of the shadows, the cursed and the damned, return now my servant to do my command.
I have returned to you, Master.
Loa, this gentleman wishes to find the lost treasure of Belmore Manor. Tell him how this can be done.
Only inhabitants of the house know where the treasure lies. Their spirits still within its walls, trapped between life and death. To ask them, those spirits must be revealed on the mortal plane.
And that is what our spell will do, Murphy. A summoning spell to unveil the ghosts trapped within the house.
5 ingredients place inside, tie closed, and then unseal. Within the focus what may hide, this spell will soon reveal.
Once you've collected all 5, we can summon the ghosts of Belmore Manor. Once we've summoned the ghosts, we can ask them exactly where the treasure was hidden. You have served me, Loa. Begone!
Do you know what happened at Belmore Manor?
You want to hear a ghost story, Murphy McCallan?
I want to know everything I can about that house.
Then listen closely. Dark magic runs throughout Belmore Manor. The house was built by the Belmore brothers, 3 merchants from England who made their fortune trading across the Caribbean. Xavier Belmore, an explorer, Yardley Belmore, an actor, and Cecil Belmore, a scientist. Their parents dead for many years. They each loved and cared for their young sister, Abigail. Abigail met a young sailor who worked aboard one of her brother's ships. And in less than a year, he proposed. The engagement was a scandal. Despite having the pick of any eligible bachelor in high society, her hand and the Belmore fortune was to go to a commoner. Because of their unconditional love for their young sister, the Belmore brothers sanctioned the marriage. But people began to wonder if Abigail was being locked into marriage, whether by blackmail or black magic. The grand wedding was planned by the 3 proud brothers, but in the months leading up to the wedding, each of the brothers, one by one, was lost, presumed dead. And yet the wedding was still to go ahead. And with Abigail set to inherit the Belmore fortune once she came of age, many people began to wonder whether the sailor was not a perpetrator, but a pawn. On the morning of the wedding, the sailor was summoned to her chambers. "I don't love you," Abigail declared. "I never loved you." And to everyone gathered in the house, Abigail declared that that same evening she would marry another. John Rackham, first officer of the Belmore Trading Company, would be her new groom. Except that didn't happen. On the night of the wedding, everyone in the house suddenly and mysteriously vanished. Perhaps the last revenge of the scorned sailor. The house that night held a heart that would be broken, a victim who would be tricked, and a force that would unleash evil. But no one knows exactly who each was. If you want to find the treasure, Murphy, you'll have to find out.
How am I going to find the spell ingredients?
Everything I've ever needed for my voodoo spells I have found on this island. It's as though this island pulls the supernatural to it. Keep searching. Once that's complete, I will show you the final step of the spell.
I'm going to finish finding the voodoo ingredients.
Hurry back. Dark magic runs throughout Belmore Manor.
It was the magazine where I first read about the Belmore treasure. Now, I was going to find out if it was more than just a ghost story. It was the magazine where It was a small leather pouch with a drawstring, used for voodoo spells. Currently, it held black feathers, gunpowder, and rum. Around the illustration was a ring of text. 5 ingredients. Place inside, tie closed, and then unseal. Within the focus, what may hide, this spell will soon reveal. It was a bottle filled with rum. It was a small mound of gunpowder. It was a pair of feathers, both black. It was a crumbling rock of chalk. It was a handful of nails, once used to seal up a coffin. It was a voodoo manuscript that looked hundreds of years old, with the instructions to a spell that summons things hidden within. It was an empty soda bottle that I'd found on the beach. I took the taxidermied fish from the rotting wooden frame. It was the taxidermied fish I'd taken from the riverboat, with a ripped seam opening up to the stuffing inside of it. It was the taxidermy.
You've returned. Have you found all the ingredients and placed them in the gree-gree?
Not yet, but I'm working on it. I'm going to finish finding the voodoo ingredients.
Hurry back.
A frayed sack hung from the wooden crane. The wooden shack had a single door. From the moss growing on it, it looked like it hadn't been used for years. I jiggled the handle, but the door was locked. Framed by trees and lit by moonlight, Belmore Manor stood imposingly in the still night air. Even without lights on, it felt like something inside the house was calling me, or warning me. I wasn't going to wade into the pond. I scanned the house for a way in, perhaps an unlocked door or window, but my search was without luck. With a deep breath, I took hold of the door handle of the house I'd been thinking about for months and turned it. Unsurprisingly, it was locked. I briefly considered breaking into the house, but unsure of just how true the ghost stories were, decided it was better to not risk angering any spirits that may have been in there. If I was getting in, I was going to need the key. The horseshoe was too high up to reach. From the gathering moss and rust, it was clear the patio set hadn't been used in decades. A table and chairs sat inside the gazebo, an echo of better days with afternoon tea looking out over the ocean. So much for good luck. I picked up the horseshoe that assaulted me. It was heavy, very heavy. It was a heavy iron horseshoe. Walking into the port town of Dead Nettle, I could sense its history in every stone, brick, and plank. Echoes of merchant ships loading and unloading all manner of cargo from expeditions throughout the Caribbean. Golden treasure that may still lie hidden on the island. The fishing net was so worn it looked like it might fall apart at any moment. It wasn't going to be of any use to me. If I was going to make use of that, I needed a fish to weigh. Are the fish biting?
Well, Not so well today, to tell the truth. They must have been spooked by something. But you should have seen them yesterday. I was having to fight them off the rod. The name's Ned Kipps, by the way. Just Kipps to my friends.
I'm Murphy McCallan.
Nice to meet you, Mac. What are you doing on this old rock anyway? I haven't seen you around before. Here on vacation?
I guess you could say that.
Then you got worse judgment than an arm wrestler squaring up to a kraken. Hope you don't regret it.
Me too. What's that book you're reading?
The Louisiana Book of Records. There's this fish called a pinkoza that swims around these parts. Delicious barbecue. And you're looking at the fella that's caught the heaviest pinkoza ever weighed at the Dead Nettle Docks. Now I'm looking to see if it's a state record, maybe even national, or a world record.
That's some achievement.
Oh, it was. Got my photograph on the front page of the newspaper and everything.
What do you do with the fish you catch?
A couple I save for myself, and the rest I sell to the Captain's Club. They fancy them up with lemon lobster, slawfish something or another. Fools. Everyone knows the best way to cook them is to barbecue them. But then again, I haven't eaten in that place my whole life.
Why not?
I don't have a captain's license, so they won't let me in.
Don't you have a fishing boat?
Now, I used to. The Petit Pichet. But they don't count it if it doesn't have a crew.
What happened to it?
That's it across the harbor with its bow sticking out the water. It was the strangest thing. There I was, fishing just out in the bay, when a sea serpent comes out the water, wraps itself around the boat. Well, I was going to be a goner. Jabbed my fishing pole right in its beady eye, throttled the motor, and managed to make it back to shore just as the hull went under. It's lucky I made it out alive.
That's a pretty tall tale.
I wouldn't believe it myself if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes.
It was clear that Ned had a penchant for fanciful stories. He told them with such vigor, I think he'd convinced himself they were true. I'm looking for the lost treasure of Belmore Manor.
Well, I've heard a tall tale or two, but even I'm not spending my time looking for that. It's been lost for 30 years now.
Lost means it's still ready for finding.
I've traveled every waterway on this island, and I haven't even seen a hint of it. It could be at the bottom of the ocean for all I know. And I've found a few treasures in my time. French treasure, British treasure, pirate treasure, but no Belmore treasure.
Do you still have those treasures?
Well, I had to hide them again. Give someone else a chance to find it. I wouldn't believe it myself if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes.
What do you know about the disappearance at Belmore Manor?
Now there's a tale to tell. You know about Miss Belmore? The bride engaged to the sailor? I heard she was having an affair, getting up to no good with this fellow called John Rackham. He was one of the Belmore Company's higher-ups. Anyway, sailor catches wind of it and tricks Rackham into giving the lady a gift. That's what caused everything to go topsy-turvy.
What was the gift?
Call me a liar, but there are places in the Caribbean that trade things more elusive than gold. Ungodly things.
Is that what you think caused the disappearance?
What else could it be?
What can you tell me about Miss Belmore?
Ah, Abigail. More beautiful than a mermaid, and twice as fishy. Seems like such a nice girl, too. Until the affair. It seems so unlike her.
What about the sailor?
Don't know much about him. Never met the fella. I never got involved in the dock work, to tell the truth. Always preferred to sit with my fishing pole and fend for myself. We all figured that Abigail being in love with him and everything. He must have been fine folk. I think we were wrong. Poor Rackham, though. He was wronger still. I'm a business guy myself. Get the product, sell the product. Nothing wrong with bringing home the bacon. But he brought back trouble, and he paid the price.
I suppose it was a mistake for him to get involved with Abigail.
It's risky mixing business and pleasure.
Catch you later, Ned.
See you around, Mac. That's for weighing fish. No one's going to beat my record.
The latest newspaper contained a photograph of the fishermen on the docks. with a headline declaring he'd just broken the island's heaviest catch record. Nothing else was of interest.
You! Stop right there! What's your name?
Murphy McAllen.
I haven't seen you before. What's your business?
I'm just visiting. Why do you need to know?
Because your business is my business, and my business is news. I'm Evelyn Stoker, editor of the Juniper Parish Gazette. No misdeed left unshared, no drama left unmonetized. Come on, work with me here, Murphy. I need something juicy. Committed any crimes? Uncovered any affairs? Any deep, personal secrets to reveal?
The honest-to-God truth. No.
I need a good story. I can't always let something minor like the truth stand in the way of that. Yes?
Hi. What are you working on?
Listen to this. An innocent victim's domesticated canine has been suddenly and mysteriously ripped away from them by fate. Its location and intentions are unknown.
Wait, are you talking about a lost dog?
Technically, it's not lost anymore. It was found shortly before I got to the house. But still, the story must be written.
I have a headline suggestion. Lost dog, not lost.
I have a personal suggestion. Butt out.
Don't you have more interesting stories to write about?
The crackpots this island calls a population wouldn't know something interesting if they paid for it. Which they hardly do. Believe me, I've tried to get juicier stories. Scouring the island, doorstop interviews, hiding beneath windows.
You eavesdrop on people through their windows?
It's called investigative reporting.
I'm doing some research on the treasure of Belmore Manor.
Leave it. That's my advice. There's no story in it.
No story?
Not that anyone would believe. And I've got advertisers breathing down my neck.
What's your theory on Belmore Manor?
This might sound far-fetched, but I think it was hypnotism. All the puzzle pieces make sense.
Who was hypnotized?
Abigail, by that strange sailor she was going to marry. This newspaper had been publishing a bunch of stories about spooky goings-on across the island. We even had tip-offs of black magic inside Belmore Manor. Can you believe it?
Who was doing black magic?
Well, we weren't told for sure, but it makes sense, doesn't it? The sailor! Why else would someone as powerful as Abigail want to marry a lowly manual worker like him? Come the night of the wedding, and she wised up. Married John Rackham, the company's first officer. Much more on her social standing, and a responsible choice for the company.
What do you think caused everyone to disappear?
The last revenge of the sailor's sorcery. But imagine me writing that into a piece of serious journalism. I'd be laughed out of the industry.
What's in those filing cabinets?
Past issues of the newspaper, starting right back in 1864. Of course, things were a lot more interesting when Deadnuttle was thriving as a port town. Comings and goings of people, ships, and cargo, lots to report on back then. More than the dregs I have to dress up now.
Why did the ship stop coming to Deadnuttle?
The Belmore Trading Company was the heartbeat of this island. After the disappearance, there was no one left to run the company, and it all got sold off. When that folded, so did pretty much everything else.
Do you have any back issues featuring the Belmore Manor wedding?
We don't, I'm afraid. Most of the paper's directors were at the wedding and disappeared along with everyone else. The newspaper had to shut up shop for weeks while it was restaffed. This was back when the Gazette wasn't run by just one person.
I think I better be going.
Keep your eyes out for a story, McAllen. There are secrets on the island, and it's my job to sell advertisements next to them.
On the floor was a large canister filled with dark black printer's ink. Around it, the floor was stained with ink splatters.
Trying to fill the bottle with ink would have caused too much of a mess. If I needed some ink, I could always come back to the newspaper office.
Don't even think about touching that machine.
It was a ball of rough twine. It was a pair of sharp scissors from the newspaper office. There was no way I was going to get past the newspaper editor to get it. Besides, I didn't know how to operate it.
Yes?
Hi. I think I better be going.
I'm keeping my eye on you, McCallan.
There was no way to get out to the wreck, and from how decayed it looked, no reason to get out to the wreck either. The poster advertised billiards at the Captain's Club, with 3 billiard balls and 2 cues framing a cube of billiard chalk. The maitre d' stood behind a tall podium, glancing down at a ledger in front of him. The courtyard echoed with the trickling noise of a small fountain. There was nothing in the fountain apart from a rim of moss. I glanced at the ledger on the podium. It was mostly empty, and the few entries there didn't seem of any interest. Good evening. He looked past me like I was invisible, as though if he ignored me hard enough, there was a chance I'd disappear. I said good evening?
I suppose, if one's standards are low enough. Have you taken a wrong